Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking Scotch eggs. I absolutely love Scotch eggs. It's the perfect morsel of flavour. Nice crispy outside, meaty ring, and a gooey egg in the middle. We're going to make a £1 Scotch egg, a £4 Scotch egg, an £8 Scotch egg and a £30 Scotch egg. Hang around to see how we're going to make a £30 Scotch egg. Go back to the shadow, flame of Urug! Or whatever he says. This is going to be a really tough contest. You know the drill, when your right hand gets tired you can switch to your left. Starting off with our £1 Scotch eggs, we've got some supermarket basic eggs, supermarket basic sausages and panko crumbs, keeping it nice and simple. Whereas for our £4 Scotch egg, we're upping to the Burford brown eggs, we've got butcher sausages, we've got some black pudding and some sesame seeds for the coating to make it a little bit extra fancy. And these are all going to get simmered off for about 6 minutes in salt and vinegar, which is going to make the shells easier to peel off later. Set a timer for 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And while that's going, I can start getting my sausages out the casings. Oh, 5 second rule. So these sausages here work out at about 20p a sausage, so we've got budget for 3 of them for this Scotch egg. And I do the same sort of thing with our butcher sausages, whereas these ones work out at about 60p a sausage, so it'll be about £2 worth of meat in each Scotch egg. It's a little bit phallic, but equally delicious. We're also going to chop up some black pudding and mix that through it as well. Oh, that's why we set our time with a spare 30 seconds, because our eggs are now done, so these are going to get immediately dunked into our ice bath to stop this cooking process completely, like so. And we're going to let these completely cool off while we finish off our black pudding and the sausage meat stuffing thing. Boop, boop, boop. Probably don't want the skin on the black pudding, so we can carefully peel all that back. And we'll go heavy on the black pudding because the sausage meat will kind of like mellow it out, so we want to get that flavour really punching through, so we'll do the whole thing of black pudding as well. We want to get it evenly mixed through the sausage meat, so the black pudding is really held by the meat, because otherwise it'll just fall apart. So the sausage meat is what's going to hold this together. And we've got these 2 big meaty balls. And once these have had a chance to cool down, I'm going to crack them and back in. The water's going to seep under that shell and make them way easier to peel. Right, I'll peel the cheap ones first so we can get our cheap Scotch eggs made initially. Eggs are actually going to be really nice. I can see seasonings in this pork, so it's not just like, it's not rubbish sausages, I think. You still get decent-ish meat. So I think they're probably still going to taste really good. For our slightly more expensive eggs in our black pudding mix, so we'll get another one of these eggs peeled. It's when you get that tiny little gap in the membrane, all the water kind of seeps underneath it and it becomes way easier to peel. Same again, using wet hands to flatten out our meat mix. We've got a little bit more meat this time, so we're going to have a thicker meaty layer around the outside of the egg. And as before, we're going to wrap this all the way around the egg, pinching it all in, making sure there are no gaps and rounding it out into a nice even ball, just like so. And now for the £1 one, budget's a bit tight, so we're just going to use a flour water mix to coat the panko onto the outside of it with a bit of hose pipe water. By the way, are the dumbest whisks ever. You put it into your thing, you push up and down and it whisks it up. But like, it's just worse than a normal whisk, and I'm pretty sure it's just used by girls on TikTok who go like this, and it's all a bit suggestive. And that's where I saw it, and I thought it'd be a funny bit for a video. Yeah, I mean, a fork would do the same thing as this. Like, this is providing no value to my life. You know the drill, when your right hand gets tired you can switch to your left. And then for our slightly more expensive, possibly £5-ish Scotch eggs, we've got a bit of extra budget, so we're going to go an egg to coat it in. Just like so. Then all of these are going to get floured down. Get a nice dry outside. And use separate hands, left hand wet hand, right hand dry hand. Dip this into the wet. Now, adding sesame seeds into the panko is a really nice way to add that little bit of nuttiness, bit of extra flavour, and also it'll make it easy to differentiate which ones are the cheap and which ones are the more expensive, because you'll see the sesame seeds on the outside. So, kind of cheating, but it's going to be important later to figure out which ones are which. So I'll go for white and black sesame seeds. It's going to make the outside look really pretty, and also get a nice little savoury, nutty crunch on the outside. And so I'll switch wet hands and dry hands now, so I'll get that all in there, mixed all around. Make sure that flour's all wetted, just like so, and then into our panko mix. You can double dip if you want a really thick outer coating, but I find a nice little thin, crispy coating on the outside is all you need for these ones. So just a single wet then dry will be good enough for me. And you may be wondering where we take it from here. How are we going to make an 8-pound Scotch egg? This is how. We've got a lamb shoulder, we've got red wine, various veggies and spices. We're going to make a Birria Lamb Scotch egg. Go back to the shadow, flame of Urug, or whatever he says. So the lamb shoulder, we're going to get it scored down so the flavour can really penetrate the meat. Try not to stab your cameraman while you do this as well. Now I'm going to get this piece of meat oiled and seasoned and into a pan with all of my veg to give it a bit of a char. Bit of MSG as well. Now I can start getting a whole bunch of chilies just like this. Pick the head off, just like so. I'll empty out a few of these seeds. I'm using a mixture of whole chilies. I've got some guajillo chilies and some mulatto chilies today, but you can also use ancho, chipotle, whatever you got in really. It will slightly affect the flavour of the birria, but like, yeah, chilies, you can sort of change it up and make it a different chili flavour each time. So yeah, guajillo and mulatto today, but use whatever you got in. Then tip all of our veg and meat into the pot. Then we've got a spice plate. We've got a mixture of a bit of oregano, smoked paprika, various other spices and a few chili flakes as well, going around on top. A mixture of beef and lamb stock going in too. Slow cooked for about 8 hours until the meat's nice and tender. We'll see. And finally for our Mexican burrito, I've got this slow cooked Birria lamb that's just falling apart. I'm just going to tip out all the extra juices that couldn't fit in the blender. I can pass all of it through a sieve to get a nice and smooth consommé without any of the bits in there. Now we're left with a nice and smooth Birria consommé. We've got all the fat, we've got all the flavours in there. It smells amazing. This should completely fall off the bone. Oh. These bones take no effort at all to pull out. It's still quite hot, but I'm gonna go in for it. And you may be wondering how this is gonna be a Scotch egg. Well, let me show you. I'm gonna dunk this into our consommé. And we've even got enough for a burrito later. Check out the next video. So, just take your time. And I'll put all of these right into my beef. Neighbours trimming the lawn at just the wrong time, so sorry if there's any background noise. Got a mixture of cheddar, red Leicester and mozzarella that are going to give like gooiness, flavour and twang and a bit of colour as well. So I'm actually just going to tip it out onto the chopping board and mix it up on here instead. And for this one I'm going to have to use a little bit of cling film. Look at that, peels nice and easy, soft boiled egg on top of our meat. And I'm going to use a cling film to wrap this meat around the egg, pinching it all the way around and really locking it in. And I'll set these in the freezer while I work on our final 30-pound Scotch egg. How the hell are we going to do a 30-pound Scotch egg? You're about to find out. Now we're on to our 30-pound Scotch egg. How are we going to do it? Fairly simply, a king crab leg. I bought a cluster of these and it came with 4 of these for about £110. So one of these is like 35 quid. So crazy money. I would never normally spend anything like this on something like this, but it's for content and I had to get the price up. So we've got a king crab leg. It's pretty alien to me, but luckily I can get away with being a bit rubbish at deshelling it because it's going to get turned into a crab cake anyway. So I'm just going to crack into, I guess can we just, I'm going to pull away all the hard shell, nice juicy meat inside. How easy is it to actually pull this? My fingers are a bit big for this. I could do with having little dainty things. The imposter is sauce. I'm using a 200-pound pepper grinder for this. It apparently grinds pepper quicker. Oh. Red wine vinegar that I bought from the foothills of Mount Vesuvius. Basically basically just picking out the fanciest things I could from my cupboard. So this is a £20 red wine vinegar, a splash of Worcestershire sauce, a squeeze of some truffle mayonnaise, the garlic as well, panko crumbs as well. Because I think coriander is the superior herb in every way, so a little bit of chopped up coriander going in there too. We're going to be using the cling film for this one as well. Lay all of our crab mix. Will not miss this. Love eating eggs, hate peeling them. Lay this atop our crab mix and use the cling film to help really wrap this around the egg, locking it all in. Now this can go into the fridge to firm up for a little bit. And now it's time to dunk our £1 Scotch eggs into the deep fat fryer. And while that's going, we're going to start working on our wet mix for the other 2 Scotch eggs inside. So my favourite way to actually get the wet mix for a Scotch egg is some sort of alcoholic fizzy batter, like a beer batter, for example. The reason why a beer batter works so well is because alcohol has got a lower boiling point than water. So when you've got the alcohol in the batter, it escapes really quickly, leaving a crispier batter that stays crispy for longer. A plate of panko, and I've also got some corn tortillas. And now these are nice and golden. I'll drain off all of that excess oil and onto a plate to hang out for a little while. £5 black pudding Scotch eggs, 1 and 2. So I get a few of these corn tortillas. Still smell good? Yeah. Birria balls unwrapped from the cling film, just like so, and they're firmed up into a nice, even mound log shape ball, something like that. Into this dry, roll this all the way around, and lower this into our oil, just like so. Now I was going to do a champagne batter to coat the expensive Scotch egg, but it's actually going to be already way more expensive than I thought, and I can't be asked opening a new bottle of champagne just for a splash of it in a batter. So I'm going to use the same beer batter. It's the same effect. The champagne doesn't make that much difference. It would just be being extra for the sake of it, and that's not what we're about on this channel. A little bit of panko, some parsley. And then dip it into the oil to fry. And we've got our £1 Scotch eggs with a little squeeze of ketchup. Our £5 Scotch eggs with a cheeky little pot of some fancy brown sauce. Our £10 Birria Scotch eggs with a cheeky little dipping pot of our Birria broth. And finally our 30, 40 something pound Scotch egg with a cheeky little pot of this truffle mayonnaise and a few drops of red wine vinegar. And now it's time to get them all sliced open. £5 Scotch egg, £10 gosh darn Scotch egg. And last but certainly not least, our £40 king crab Scotch egg. Get a look at that. £1 Scotch egg. Solid Scotch egg. We'll try the next one now. I'll try it pre-dipping first. The quality of the sausage, along with the flavour of that black pudding, and the richer egg, like the egg is a lot tastier. That's better. It's a good chunk better. our £10 Birria Scotch Egg. This is going to be a really tough contest for our £40 Scotch Egg. Try it in the sauce. It's like a really high-end crab cake around a nice egg. I'm not the fishiest guy though, so I still prefer certainly these two. The step up from there to there is the biggest step up. So I'm going to have to say this one is the most worth it at its price, but my overall favourite has got to be the Birria Scotch Egg, because I'm an absolute spice fiend, and the cheese and the coriander. And this spicy Birria consommé. Oh, this just makes for the perfect bite. I hope you can take away a few things. I can say is, get good quality eggs when you're making Scotch eggs. That difference in yolk really does make a difference. Buy good quality sausages. The better quality sausage you buy, the better Scotch egg, and it really does make the difference. Other than that, if you've got a spare 8 hours, make these Birria Lamb Scotch eggs, because you will not be disappointed. It's cheesy, it's meaty, it's gooey, it's drippy, it's spicy, it's garlicky. Go and make it. Crab cake Scotch eggs, I wouldn't recommend buying a king crab leg to make a Scotch egg. It's a bit of a waste of money. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. We're going to do loads of weird stuff like this in future, so please follow along. We're going to do weird challenges and verses and whatever else, so follow the channel. Hopefully plenty more content to come. Go back to the shadow, flame of Urug!